Hey everyone, welcome back to LX News Now. The COVID-19 pandemic has impacted all of us, but some worse than others. For some people, it's been a personal battle with the virus, maybe the loss of a loved one or a job. Others, though, have to decide whether to put food on the table or pay the rent. Now, Congress originally authorized $45.5 billion in emergency rental assistance, but just over 10% of that funding had been distributed to renters and landlords by the end of July. Getting this money into the hands of people who need it is more important now than perhaps ever, with eviction bans expiring. So joining us now here on NBC-LX to discuss evictions is Altagracia Pierre-Outerbridge, a New York City attorney and landlord-tenant in landlord-tenant litigation. I apologize. Well, thanks for joining us here today. Now, can you put all this into context? How bad has the impact of COVID-19 been on American renters?
Thank you, Eric, for having me. It's been really bad. People cannot pay their rent. That's the truth. People, as your prior segment commenter said, folks have not been able to pay their rent. There's about 800,000 to a million. At least where I am, New York is one of the largest cities with renters, right? The largest rental city. People cannot pay the rent. That's just the bottom line.
So there's money out there, or there should be money out there, set aside to stop evictions and keep people in their homes. What is getting in the way of that money being put to work?
Well, technological, right? People not having the technology, right? At least in New York, it's about 80% of the area median income. So it's really the lowest income people, right? That are the first round of people to get the money. Those people may not have the technology they need to actually access the application, right? The application is online. So it doesn't make sense to require people who actually may not have it to actually need it to apply for the rental assistance. We also know that there are language barriers. There's also the big problem of folks not knowing.
Yeah, so I understand you've worked as a landlord's attorney protecting their property rights, but also as a tenant's attorney protecting them from unnecessary evictions. So you're in a unique position to assess this issue kind of from both sides. So, who needs to be protected here in the time of COVID? Is it more the landlords are being treated unfairly, or the renters, or both?
I mean, everyone's in the same boat, I'll say. The landlords are missing money, the tenants are uncomfortable, right? Because at some point this is gonna end. Tenants are facing massive rental arrears, 40, 50, 60 grand in rental arrears. We've heard from tenants who owe 200 grand in rental arrears, right? Folks in luxury apartments and not luxury apartments who owe the rental arrears. Landlords are complaining. Some call us actually crying, saying, I can't pay the mortgage. What's going on here, right? When does it end? So we hear from both sides, and both sides are suffering.
It's definitely a complex issue, and I feel like when viewers and readers, read the headlines and you see the news stories, we talk a lot about money in terms of billions of dollars and things like that. But as someone who is in your line of work, can you talk about the individual people out there and the level of suffering and uncertainty that they're going through right now?
Absolutely. I mean, landlords are saying, I'm going to lose my home. It's really, I mean, you hear the cries, right? You hear the cries, and as much as I hear it, we hear it daily. It still, breaks our heart, right? We hear the cries of people calling saying, when does it end? When do I get rent? And then tenants are calling saying, I owe 40K. I've applied. I haven't been able to receive the money. In terms of getting the money out, one of the things, at least in New York, one of the protections is that once a tenant has applied, their eviction is stopped for a year. So that's the protection there. But getting to people to apply is a huge deal. We also know that landlords can apply, can submit a hardship declaration to their mortgagee, their bank, who has the mortgage, and say that they are experiencing COVID hardship to avoid their own foreclosure. So there is some protection out there for the landlords. However, the money's not coming in, and we don't know when it will.
So because of that, if we have someone who's watching us right now, and we're on, coast to coast, who's having trouble right now and doesn't know where to turn, I understand you're not necessarily representing them on an individual basis, but what general advice do you have for people out there who just don't know what they're going to do?
Absolutely. So find out, thank you for this. Find out what your state has in terms of rental assistance. There's probably an application, online, right? Look up rental assistance in your state. That's one tip. The second tip is to seek an attorney. Seek an attorney, whether it be a paid or unpaid lawyer, legal services, find out what your rights are. And the third tip is to talk to your landlord. See if you can come up with a payment plan. Usually the application for rental assistance needs both the landlord and the tenant to cooperate. And folks may be on bad terms, right? Stress is rising and they may not be talking. But talking is really the best way to figure out how to get ahead, because the application does need both sides to cooperate most of the time.
All right, that's very useful information. Altagracia, Pierre-Outerbridge, thanks so much for that advice, and thank you for joining us today here on NBCLX. All right, everyone.